The Adosian general Zoltar cackled as he watched the pathetic rebel base on his view screen, imagining the laser fire tearing through their flimsy barricades, not knowing that the Silver Wolves and their human commander were about to send 10,000 of his soldiers straight to hell. Alan Rice scowled as he replayed the desperate message from Vox, the rebel leader. He punched the bulkhead of his cabin, cursing under his breath. The Adosian Empire had pushed the rebels to the brink. Vox pleaded for help, his voice shaking. Without the Silver Wolves, the rebel cause would be crushed within a day. Alan's company was the best in the galaxy, but 200 mercenaries against 10,000 Imperial troops. Fucking suicide. His men would be outnumbered 50-1. But he owed Vox. They had fought together years ago, watching each other's backs. Alan always repaid his debts. "All right, you clankers. Listen up," Alan barked, his voice booming through the dropship. "I just took a contract. We're going to Eidos Prime. The rebel base is about to be overrun. 10,000 imp soldiers are about to roll right over them. Vox needs us to buy time. Hold them off long enough to evac the refugees. 10,000 imps." Zara, his best sniper, whistled. "Sounds like a target-rich environment. What's the catch? We expecting to make it out after?" Alan spat. "We're getting paid half up front, other half if we get out. But we owe Vox, you all know that. We can't leave him twisting in the wind." Murmurs filled the craft. The wolves knew how much Vox meant to the commander. They would follow Alan into any hell. The Empire expects to steamroll the rebels with numbers, but those poor dumb bastards have never fought humans before. They think they can bury us in bodies. Alan laughed. 200 wolves against 10,000 sheep. I almost feel sorry for them. Imagine their surprise when they realized they poked the wrong fucking mercenaries. The dropship erupted into cheers. "Wura, let's rock. Time to die, imps. Lock and load, wolves. We drop in 6 hours. And if we gotta die, let's make sure we drag 1,000 imps to hell with us. Get some rest. You'll need it." Alan cut the comm. The wolves were howling for blood as usual. Alan allowed himself a tight grin. This was a one-way trip. The Adosian Empire was in for one hell of a nasty shock. They had no idea who they were fucking with. Alan would make damned sure the rebels got out, and he'd make the imps pay in blood for every fucking inch of ground. Time to show these aliens what humans were made of. The wolves were the best in the galaxy at cracking skulls and breaking shit. This was going to be the most epic last stand in history. Alan couldn't wait to see the look on that imp general's face when the Silver Wolves turned his 10,000 grunts into corpses. The dropships lurched as they exited hyperspace above Eidos Prime. Alan jabbed the comms. "Vox, you there? We need to coordinate our attack. What's your status? Thank the stars you're here, Alan." Vox's voice crackled over the link. "We're holed up in an old bunker complex in the Khazra Mountains, tunnels and turrets carved right into the rock. But the imps are massing on the Scaran Plateau, 15 clicks northeast. Only one way in from there through the Khazra Pass." Alan pulled up a hollow map of the terrain, eyes narrowed. The pass was a deep ravine, with steep cliffs rising up on either side, the perfect spot for an ambush. "Here's the plan. We turn that pass into a meat grinder, rig it with mines, charges, auto turrets, the works, then we hit them from the sides." He turned to his techs. "Marks Jaya, get the Hellhounds fitted with jump jets. I want them scaling those cliff walls." The mechanics nodded and rushed off. "Ula Zek, take your sappers and seed the ravine with every nasty surprise you can think up. Proximity mines, remote deck charges, fletchette launchers. By the time you're done, a fly won't buzz through there without getting turned to pulp." The demo experts grinned viciously. "They won't know what hit them, boss." Vox spoke up again, his voice grim. "Alan, hurry. Our sensors just lit up. They're on the move. Emperor's balls. It's a fucking army down there. Tanks, arty, has to be over 10,000 ground pounders, and they're all headed straight for the pass." Fast. Alan flashed a predator smile. Good. Right where we want them. The dropships dove into the atmosphere, stealth systems masking their approach. As they streaked over the arid landscape, the rebels patched them into the Imperial comms chatter. Multiple contacts on the scope. General, a crisp Vadosian voice reported. 2 small signatures, dropship class, descending towards the Kazra region. A deep, cruel laugh echoed over the channel. General Zoltar, 2 puny dropships. So this is the mighty reinforcement the rebels called in. I expected an armada, not a pair of scrap heaps. Raucous jeering filled the link, the Adosian soldiers mocking the incoming ships. Should we divert to intercept them, General? Ignore them, Zoltar scoffed. 2 dropships against the might of the Empire. You could at least try to waste our time. We have a rebel stronghold to crush. Let the pickets swat those annoying flies. Alan chuckled darkly as he muted the comm. 2 dropships full of wolves, you mean, and you slugs just walked right into the den. The valley shook as the silver wolves sprung their trap. The Adosian tanks and artillery crawled into the pass, not suspecting the firestorm that was about to rain down on their heads. Suddenly, the roar of rockets and plasma fire split the air. The Merc dropships swept down from the sky, disgorging assault vehicles along the valley ridgeline. Jump jets flared as the hellhounds bounded up the cliffs, their heavy cannons already belching death. Explosions ripped through the Adosian formation as the rockets found their marks. Tanks erupted into pillars of fire, shattered hulls pinwheeling through the air. Gouts of dirt and shrapnel geyser up from the plasma impacts, turning artillery pieces into molten slag. The imps scattered, shouting in panic, all discipline gone. That was when the mines triggered. The valley floor bucked and heaved as a carpet of explosions rolled across it. Adosian soldiers vanished in clouds of pulverized rock and flame. Craters and fissures yawned open, swallowing entire squads. The once orderly advance degenerated into a stumbling mob, bogged down in a hellscape of broken earth. Then the flechette turrets opened up. A buzzing whine filled the air as the autoguns planted by Ula and Zek spat out storms of lethal darts. The diamond hard slivers shredded armor and flesh alike, scything down the Imperial infantry in droves. Soldiers jerked and danced like blood-soaked marionettes as the flechettes ripped them apart. Forward, you dogs, General Zoltar bellowed from his command tank, trying to rally his troops. I want the shock course on that ridge now. His elite power armor troopers surged ahead, jump jets flaring as they tried to gain a foothold on the cliffs. But Alan had planned for this. Zara, you're up, he barked into the comm. Hit those shiny bastards. With pleasure, boss. The sniper purred, perched on an outcrop high above. Her rifle cracked again and again, sending hypervelocity slugs straight through Adosian faceplates. Beside her, Kron and Jezik poured plasma fire and grenades down on the shock troops, scattering their advance. The imps regrouped, hurling themselves up the pass with newfound ferocity. Tanks and soldiers clambered over the piled corpses of their comrades, heedless of the merciless kill zone. The wolves poured it on, holding the high ground, turning the enemy's numbers against them. The valley had become a roaring pit of death, an alien Thermopylae. Makshaya with me. Alan vaulted into a hellhound, the jump-capable vehicle purring to life. Let's go give those imps a kick in the ass. The trio of assault craft blazed over the ridgeline and dropped into the enemy's rear echelons. Autocannon roaring, they shredded supply trucks, ammo carriers, and fuel tankers. Secondaries blossomed behind the imp lines as the saboteurs crippled their logistics. In the rebel bunker, Vox watched the carnage unfold on the monitors, his mandibles agape. The silver wolves were like nothing he had ever seen. They fought with a savage skill and fury that defied belief. I knew the Terrans were fierce warriors, he murmured, but this is incredible. They fight like demons. And still the Adosians came on, a relentless tide of fanatic hatred, scrambling over the corpses of the fallen. Zoltar drove them on, caring nothing for the lives he spent. The pass had become an abattoir, but the imps would not break. Sheer numbers were forcing the mercs back, in danger of being overwhelmed. Alan gritted his teeth as he saw more enemy tanks grinding forward. They couldn't fall back, not yet. They had to buy the rebels a little more time. "Wolves," he roared over the comm. "Hold the damn line." Plasma bolts and tracer rounds crisscrossed the ravine as the battle raged into its sixth, grueling hour. Alan ducked behind the gutted hull of an Edosian tank, fumbling to reload his rifle with hands slick with sweat and grime. His ammo counter blinked an angry red Hero 3. 3 mags left. All around him, the wolves were running dry, scavenging energy cells and grenades from fallen foes. They fought with the ferocity of cornered beasts, but Alan knew they were on borrowed time. "Makshaya, tell me you've got something." He barked into his comm over the din of battle. "We're working on it, boss," Mak shouted back, his voice nearly drowned out by the whine of power tools. "Trying to rig an EMP burst from the dropship cause, if we can juice it enough. Might fry the imp circuits, even the odds, a bit." Alan spat a glob of blood-tinged phlegm. "Well, hurry the hell up, or there won't be any of us left." Her thunderous boom shook the valley as an Edosian artillery shell struck one of the wolf positions in a geyser of pulverized stone. Screams of agony crackled over the calm, abruptly silenced. "Shit, they've breached the eastern barricade," Zara yelled. "We can't hold them." Alan's gut clenched. This was it. The Edosians had broken through. He keyed his comm to all channels. "Wolves, fall back to the secondary positions. We need to buy the engineers more." A hail of plasma fire cut him off as a massive shape smashed through the rubble. It was Zoltar's command tank, its hull blackened and pitted, but still terrifyingly lethal. The Edosian general stood in the turret, his ceremonial armor gleaming amidst the smoke. "Miserable earth scum," Zoltar bellowed, his voice amplified by the tank's loudspeakers. "Did you really think your pathetic band could stand against the might of the Empire? I will grind your bones to dust." Alan snarled, a red haze descending over his vision. He snatched a plasma lance from a dead shock trooper and charged, dodging the tank's fire. Zoltar laughed, leveling his cannon at the human. "Come then, ape. Let me show you what the Edosian elite are made of." The searing bolt of plasma scorched the air where Alan had been a heartbeat before. He rolled, came up sprinting. Another shot boiled the ground beside him. Alarms shrieked in his heart as his armor temperature spiked. Alan jinked left then right, the lance heavy in his hands. Zoltar tracked him gloating. "That's right. Dance for me, primate, just like the rest of your misbegotten kind." With a roar, Alan leaped, jets flaring from his boot soles. He soared over Zoltar's shell, twisting in midair to avoid the general's point-blank shot. The plasma seared his pauldron, flash melting the ceramic plates. Alan landed hard on the tank's hull face to face with Zoltar. The Edosian reared back, mandibles wide in shock. Alan didn't hesitate. He thrust with the lance, the star-hot blade plunging into Zoltar's chest, puncturing the armor in a spray of molten metal and boiling blood. "We may be small in number," Alan gritted out, his face inches from Zoltar's, "but we fight with the strength of 1,000, for we are the Silver Wolves, and we never back down." The Zoltar convulsed, ichor spurting from his mandible jaws. Alan twisted the lance savagely, then ripped it free in a welter of gore. The general toppled from the turret, his ornate armor clanging on the blood-slick hull. Alan raised the lance high, the blade dripping, and brought it down with all his might on the tank's reactor housing. The lance punched through the armored cowling in a shower of sparks. Alan felt the temperature spike an instant before a miniature sun ignited beneath his feet. The wheel disappeared in a blinding flash, and a roar that shook the heavens. The shock wave hurled Alan back, his armor screaming with damage alerts. He crashed to the ground in a clatter of tortured servos, every bone in his body ringing like a struck gong. Days deafened. He struggled to his feet, the valley spinning crazily around him. The command tank was gone, reduced to a towering pillar of greasy flame. Zoltar's blackened corpse lay sprawled in the debris, still twitching. Alan staggered, his armor shedding pieces like leaves in a storm. He raised a trembling fist and keyed his comm. "Now," he roared, his voice raw and bloody. "Do it now." On the cliffs above, Mox and Jur threw the makeshift switches, the dropship cores pulsing with barely contained energy. A teeth-rattling whine built, growing louder and louder until it drowned out even the sounds of battle. With a deafening crack, an invisible wave of force exploded outward, washing over the valley like the hand of an angry god. The EMP burst caught the Adosians in a crackling web of lightning, shorting out weapons, sensors, and armor systems. Soldiers jerked and thrashed as their neural interfaces overloaded, the delicate circuitry in their heads frying like moths in a bug zapper. Tanks and artillery shuddered to a halt, belching smoke from every vent. In an instant, the implacable Adosian advance had become a milling mob of confusion and panic. The rebels saw their chance. With a throaty battle cry, Vox led his troops boiling out of the bunker tunnels, falling on the hapless invaders in a frenzy of close-quarter savagery. Alan limped forward to join the fray, scooping up a discarded rifle. All around him, the silver wolves surged to meet him, bloodied, battered, but still hungry for payback. Blood and smoke choked the air as the silver wolves staggered through the wreckage of the Kajra Pass. Medics rushed to aid the wounded, rebels and mercenaries alike, while grim-faced soldiers hauled broken bodies from the rubble. Alan limped heavily, his armor blackened and warped. Pain lanced through him with every step, the skin beneath his suit raw and blistered from plasma burns. But he gritted his teeth and pushed on, determined to see to his people. All around, the wolves took stock of their losses. Zara cradled a broken arm, her sniper rifle slung across her back. Mox and Jaya sat slumped against a shattered tank, their faces smeared with grime and exhaustion. Of Eula's demo team, only Zek remained, his eyes haunted. Over half the company lay dead or maimed, their dropships blasted ruins. The smell of burnt meat and bubbling blood hung thick in the air. A ragged cheer went up from the rebels as Vox emerged from the bunker, his armor dented but intact. Alan turned to greet him, masking a wince as his seared flesh pulled. "Vox, you crazy bastard," he said, clasping the rebel's hand. "Thought you bought it for sure when those imps broke through." Vox shook his head, mandibles clicking. "Takes more than a few slugs to put me down. Your wolves held the line, gave us the chance we needed." His voice was heavy with grief and gratitude. "Couldn't have done it without your techs jamming their comms and sensors at just the right moment." Alan looked out over the devastation, feeling every loss like a knife to the gut. Hell of a thing. Vox nodded somberly. A victory, but a costly one. He met Alan's gaze, his compound eyes unreadable. "I just received word from our spies. The Adosian Emperor has declared total war on the rebellion." Alan spat a glob of bloody flame. "Big surprise. That bastard's pissed we smashed his fancy army." More than pissed, Fox's voice was grim. "He's called in the Grand Armada, every ship, every soldier. They're gathering in the Zephyr system as we speak, and their target is here." Her cold dread settled in Alan's stomach. The Grand Armada, the most feared military force in the sector. Thousands of warships, millions of troops, all fanatically loyal to the Emperor. Against that, what chance did a handful of battered rebels and broken mercenaries have? Vox must have seen the look on his face. He leaned in close, speaking softly. "Alan, you've done more than we could have ever hoped for, but this is beyond even the silver wolves. Let us evacuate you and your troops, get you out before the hammer falls." For a long moment, Alan was tempted. His wolves had bled and died for the rebellion, given everything. Hadn't they sacrificed enough? But then he thought of the Adosian civilians huddled in the bunkers below, the ones Vox and his rebels fought to protect. If the wolves ran now, those people would be slaughtered like animals when the Empire came. And that was something Alan could never allow. He met Vox's gaze, his jaw set. "We're not going anywhere, Vox. The silver wolves never run from a fight." Vox chittered in distress. "Alan, be reasonable. You said it yourself. Your company is in ruins. What can you possibly hope to do against the full might of the Empire?" Alan looked out over his battered warriors, seeing the steel in their eyes, the defiance in their stances. "What we always do," he growled, "stand in the way of tyranny. Fight for those who can't fight for themselves." He raised his voice, letting it carry to every wolf and rebel. "The Empire is coming, and they're bringing hell with them. They think they're going to crush the rebellion, wipe the Adosians from the face of the galaxy. But they forgot one thing. The silver wolves stand between them and their goal." A rumble of agreement rose from the assembled soldiers, humans and aliens alike. Alan felt a savage grin tug at his mouth. "We held the Khazra Pass against 10,000 imps. We can damn well hold this valley against 100,000 more, so let them come. Let them see what it means to face the fangs of the wolves." Howls and war cries echoed from the cliffs, the sound of warriors ready to fight to the last. Alan turned to his lieutenants, already calculating. "Zek Jaya, find whatever scrap metal and rubble you can. Slide that empalmer into barricades and foxholes." The two techs nodded and moved out, calling for volunteers. Alan gestured to Zara and Kron. "Scout the valley. Find every place a sniper can perch, every spot we can lay traps. We'll bleed the imps for every rock and stone." He looked to Vox. "Get your people dug in deep. We need to hold the high ground. Channel the bastards into kill zones. Scrape together whatever food, water, and ammo you can." As the rebels rushed to work, Alan limped to the edge of the cliff, staring up at the sky. He knew what was coming. The full fury of an empire bent on grinding them to dust beneath its boot. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to cut his losses, and live to fight another day. But he was a silver wolf. He'd sworn an oath to stand as a shield for the weak, a sword against the unjust, and he would keep that oath even if it killed him. Alan raised a fist to the heavens, the scorched ceramic of his armor still warm against his skin. "Hear me, you Adosian dogs," he roared into the wind. "The silver wolves know you're coming, and we're ready. So come on then, you bastards. Come and die on our claws." As if in answer, the sky above shimmered and warped. A vast armada of ships dropped out of hyperspace, the Emperor's Leviathans, each one bristling with enough firepower to glass a continent. The Empire had arrived, and the wolves were waiting for them. The scene cuts to black, leaving the fate of the Silver Wolves and the Adosian Rebellion uncertain. But one thing is clear: the Empire will learn to fear the day they met Alan Rice and his band of Terran mercenaries on the battlefield. The legend of the Silver Wolves will echo through the ages, whispered by freedom fighters and aliens alike. A legend forged in blood, defiance, and the indomitable will of the human spirit. If you finish this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I like the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.